Nutrition is at the forefront of so many different conversations nowadays. And I'm not even going to talk about the different eating plans, such as vegan, paleo, keto. I'm really just going to focus on what it means to eat organic and how you can eat more organic foods in your diet, even if you are on a budget. Hey there, mamas. Welcome to the Mom Care Coach podcast. And I am your host, Victoria Mattia. I am a certified life and health coach, certified international counselor, and also a homeschooling autism mom and former autism clinic director. I know that you are struggling with holding healthy boundaries around time management, constantly getting less than adequate sleep, and managing deep exhaustion and overwhelm. And you are praying to find a way to have more energy throughout your day. Well, friend, you have come to the right place. In this show, we will talk about how you can guide yourself through a process of self-care strategies that will lead you to the health solutions that you as an autism mom have been searching for, and how providing for your 4 intentional needs, sleep, movement, nutrition, and mindset, can help you avoid burnout. So grab this morning's leftover matcha or pour another cup of your homemade kombucha and pull up a chair, and let's have a chat on how these health solutions can change your life. One more thing, would you like to know more about the online coaching services and health bundles that I offer? If so, please do not hesitate to reach out. My email is mindfulwellnessforautismmoms@gmail.com. Again, mindfulwellnessforautismmoms@gmail.com. And of course, it's also listed in the show notes. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Now on with our show. Hey everyone, this is episode number 5. And if this is your first time tuning in, I am your host, Victoria Mattia, and this is the Mom Care Coach. Okay, so today we have our one big idea, and it is all about nutrition. And our episode title today is How to Eat Organic on a Budget. So before I get started, I want to read a review. Okay, friends, so our review today comes from Jo Kettle, and she says, finally something for the moms. Moms take care of their kids, so they need to have their oxygen mask on first, so to speak. It's essential to focus on moms first. This podcast gets it and helps moms get theirs. So thank you so much, Jo Kettle. And of course, friends, if you would like for me to possibly read your review on an episode, please do not forget to go and give us a 5-star review and share with your friends to see if this is something that, of course, they would love to. So on with our episode. Today, we are really diving into nutrition, but as you will see, it's more than just nutrition. Okay, so how to eat organic on a budget. So let's just talk about this one big idea. Okay, it is easier than you think, and it's within your reach. A life of congruence is at the root of how we think and what we do when it aligns. A life of congruence is what we actually want to achieve when we are committed to honoring our 4 intentional needs. Okay, so what am I saying with that? Well, let's go back to our trailer. If you remember last week, in our trailer, we talked about how one of the questions was, are you living a life of congruence? Are you living a life that's different than how you actually want to be living? So when we talk about nutrition, we're talking about nutritional dense food. We're talking about how to support our bodies so that we can do all of the things that we were created to do and to support our family's needs as well. But first, just like as Joe Kettle mentioned, it starts with us moms, okay? So, I have a story for you. So, today, of course, as I said, we're diving into that pillar of nutrition. Our four intentional needs as a review is movement, mindset, nutrition, and sleep. And so, it's our first episode on nutrition. Last week, we talked mostly about mindset. So, when it comes to nutrition, I have a story. I remember years ago when I was in college, I was vegan for many years at that point, but at the same time, I would say I was more plant-based because whenever it was the time around Thanksgiving or some of those winter holidays, I would allow myself to go home to my family and eat some of those comforting soul food recipes such as macaroni and cheese and um, let's see, cranberry sauce and just a lot of different, what was it, pumpkin pie, different things that now I do eat those foods, but I eat them plant based and I eat them in a really healthy way. And so I have to be honest, I'm not a kind of person that really believes in 80/20. And the reason why is because it kind of does something psychologically to our brains, I feel like. I feel like if we're eating 80/20, most of the time we are making ourselves eat healthy in the way that we feel like we're supposed to. But 20% of the time, we allow ourselves to eat foods that we wouldn't traditionally eat, and the reason why is because it doesn't make our personal bodies feel very good. For me, after I ate some of those recipes that were from my family during the winter time, I felt more bloated. I felt like I had gained a couple pounds. I felt like I was going to have to like work out more or whatever to get back to the way I looked like a week before, but not just that, just even how I felt. Meaning, I felt like I had more of a foggy brain, and my tummy didn't feel very good. I was more tired. And so, what I had to come to grips with for me personally, the fact that I care about my family and I love my family and I support them, is not the same thing as eating something that doesn't make me feel very good. Okay, so for me, I had to understand that that was not living my best life. I was not living in congruence. If I'm saying one thing with my mouth, that I want to eat healthy and I want to nourish myself truly and deeply every single day, then for me, I didn't feel comfortable with sometimes eating things that was not the best for me. Now I know that wherever I go, if I'm going to a friend's house or whatever, I know how I can bring some really yummy meals that is going to be a crowd pleaser for everybody. But, and that's if they choose to partake. But even if they don't, I know that I have something that I can eat that is really, really delicious. And I don't ever feel like I'm missing out. And I think that's the point. At the time, I felt like in college, I was missing out on some things that I felt like I needed to eat. Somehow I was in my brain making this connection between love and comfort with what I was eating with family and all of that. So, what does that have to do with today's topic? Well, actually, it has a lot to do with it because it's really interesting the choices that we make when it comes to food, okay? So I believe that this conversation is so important. Even right now, and I live in America and in this country, it is the time of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a few weeks away. And it's interesting because you would think that because it's Thanksgiving, everyone's thinking about the different kind of foods they're going to eat. And coming together with family. And because that is so true, I think it's important for us to think about what it is we really want, since this is a self-care podcast. Okay, so gatherings are happening all around us right now, and a person's perception and beliefs are often involved in the kinds of food that they choose to eat and what they choose to eat, and also even what they think other people are thinking about them concerning the food they choose to eat. Which is really funny because most of the time people are thinking more about themselves than they are actually thinking about us personally. But sometimes we allow ourselves to kind of think about maybe how they are feeling about food is somehow going to impact us. Well, this is a driving force for a lot of people and how we interact. So we want to make sure that we are able to establish some really good habits, and we are able to enjoy ourselves even when we show up for different gatherings and when we are around friends. And part of that enjoyment, I feel like, comes from being able to nourish and enjoy those relationships without feeling compromised in our body and how we show up, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. So if we want to eat more organic, we must establish a strong why. Otherwise, we will come up with good reasons for why not to. So this episode is all about how can we eat organic on a budget, but before we even make that decision, we need to understand, is this something that we really want to do? Why do we really want to do it? And the reason why we have to come up with a plan is because we want to make it feasible for us so we can do this consistently, to do this on a consistent basis, if that's what our goal is, okay? So I have a couple different tips here. We have about 4 or 5 tips. The first one is basically we want to decide how and when to incorporate more organic foods into our diet, right? And most people would agree that organic food, meaning that the food is non-GMO and that it is grown without pesticides and that it is grown in nutrient-dense soil and is typically more nutritious than conventionally grown food, right? Okay, so number 2, when we're thinking about adding more organic foods into our diet, we want to be aware of the how. Okay, so we want to follow either the clean 15 and dirty dozen rule. That's a really great place to start, honestly, when you're following the clean 15 and the dirty dozen rule that's listed on ewg.org. And I will try to list that website in the show notes, but that's always a really great place for you to check out different kind of foods, which foods have higher amounts of pesticides in it and all of that. And they give lots of really good, useful information. Okay, so go ahead and check them out when you are trying to decide which kind of foods to start incorporating or releasing. The Clean 15 gives you an idea of if you are not able to have it organic all the time simply because it may not be as budget friendly or because it may not be in your local store year round. If you kind of adhere to the Clean 15, that means that those items that are listed are least in pesticides. And so it's going to be better for you than things that are on the Dirty Dozen list that is conventionally grown, okay? So that's a really great place to start, especially when you're wanting to think about how to eat on a budget. Okay, so another tip is be open to putting some practice into your life when it comes to zero waste ideas and food extension options. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, I'll give you some examples. So, this is a really great plug. So I will be making some extension videos, and you can only access these videos if you are signed up on the emailed newsletter. And I will also have intro videos for each episode, but those are only listed in the Facebook group. So, guys, I have created this incredible community for you, and all of this stuff is free. Okay, so our podcast is free, our Facebook group is free, that is called the Mom Care Coach. You can just add yourself to there, and you will be notified when there are new videos that are released. And they go along with our episodes here on the podcast. And then also in the show notes, it will have how you can sign up to be on the email list so that you can get the weekly newsletter, which will have the expansion videos or extension videos in it. And so that is where I kind of give you a little bit of examples of where I go in my kitchen and I say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I am making this work in our family. So if that is something that is interesting to you, please just take a look at the show notes, see where you need to plug in, and we would love to have you. So when I say be open to putting in place some zero waste ideas and food extension options, let me give you some examples. So and I do have a video that will be coming out in the newsletter this week on this. So we have onions and garlic. When you have organic onions and organic garlic, if you take off the peeling of it and store it, you can actually dehydrate it and grind it down to make it into powder, and you can add it to your recipes and stews and food as a healthy additive. Like you would use onion powder or garlic powder, but that is free just from your organic onions and garlic, right? So also sourdough. Sourdough is really awesome because it gives you some probiotics. It helps those fermented veggies and foods help your food to break down easier in the body. It has enzymes in there, so it really helps you to feel better. And there's ways of doing it to where it's gluten-free or low gluten as well. So those are a couple different options. Making your own sauerkraut. So just getting salt and organic cabbage is really awesome because, again, fermented veggies is going to help your food to digest. Kvass, which is taking organic beets and sitting it in water with a little salt. It is also a fermented beverage. Rejuvelac. I don't hear much about that, but years ago, if you were a part of the raw food movement, it was talked about everywhere. And basically, it is a fermented grain beverage. I use quinoa, but you can also use wheat berries if you are okay with some gluten. But of course, quinoa is gluten-free. Okay, making your own jam, super easy. You can take frozen strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and add some pectin to it. So that can be organic lemon seeds or organic apple seeds, and putting that in a little pot. Making sure your berries are frozen though, along with that. Put some chia seeds in there and a little bit of sweetener, whether you want to use maple syrup or honey or just stevia. And it takes like 5 minutes. It comes together and you have some homemade jam. And that's really awesome to extend your berries and to add as a topping, maybe even on that sourdough bread. Okay, another thing. So we just finished October, and maybe you still have some pumpkins. Take those pumpkins, the whole pumpkin, and scoop out your pumpkin seeds, and you can make some salty pumpkin seeds, which is a really delicious and healthy snack, or you can sweeten it. What we did is added a little bit of cinnamon and salt and stevia, and I roasted them, and they were so crunchy. It was a really great snack. You can do the same thing with butternut squash seeds. So that's really yummy. And of course, if you still have your whole pumpkin, you can roast it in the oven and make pumpkin pie, or use the pumpkin puree to put it in soups or stews. So again, you are taking something, one item, and allowing it to be several meals for you that can, the whole family can eat if that is something they want to choose to do. So another thing, I'm going to link the video I made a couple years ago of where you can take your leftover food scraps. You can either put it in your garden, like to make that garden more nutrient dense so that your vegetables are growing really yummy, or you can take it and make your own vegetable soup stock that you can use later. And so basically you take the vegetable pieces. Let's say you have some broccoli and you only want to use the broccoli crown. You can take the leftover stalk of it, I guess, and I would take that, and I would actually take onion and garlic peels too, not just making them into powder, but also taking all of that other veggies, butternut squash, just really anything, parts of your kale, if like the stems, if you don't eat that, all of that, you put it in the freezer, like in a resealable freezer bag. And then when you're ready, you take it out of the freezer and you put it in water and you boil it, and you make some really, really delicious vegetable soup stock, and you add it to your soups and your stews, and it's really delicious. And it's one less thing for you to purchase at the store. Okay, so I will try to link that video as well. All right, so that was number 3. Let's look at number 4, practicing meal planning ideas and buying according to your plans, your meal plans. That is going to save a lot of money because you're literally buying what you're already planning to make. So you're not buying extra and excess of things and trying to figure out how to put that into a meal. You already have that planned out. And so that's really awesome if you are meal planning, or even if you are taking certain parts of the meals and you are preparing that, like preparing your carbs or your proteins or your grains, having that planned out for the week. Even that little tiny bit, it just goes a really long way. And lastly, I want you to just really honor the season that you are in and take things one step at a time. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. And honestly, when we are starting anything new, it takes time. And if you just take one bite at a time, so to speak, one little step, but just keep moving forward, moving in a forward direction and forward motion, that is going to really, really help you. And it's going to be, in the long run, more sustainable, okay? So, lastly, I do want to add just one more little plug. Don't forget to go over to the Facebook group and introduce yourself, add yourself to the group, watch the introduction videos for this episode as well as more episodes, especially in the future. And then don't forget to sign up, and you can message me if you have not received any notification and you would like to be added to that email newsletter. Remember, in the show notes, it also has my email address, which is mindfulwellnessforautismmoms@gmail.com. So that is added there. And then, of course, just a reminder, the podcast is free, the Facebook group is free, as well as the newsletter is free. But you know yourself. And if you are feeling like, man, Victoria, I would really love to have more support, I do offer one-on-one health and life coaching. And I also have an online health shop where you can purchase your health bundles and supplements and different items. And I would love to help walk you through that, support you through it in whichever way you are needing. So please don't forget to reach out. Let me know how I can support you more. Remember, this is our community. I believe that moms, we need to have a community for ourselves, and that is why I've created these programs and this podcast. So thank you so much for listening. And of course, if you have learned anything, if this is really helpful for you, don't forget to pass it on. And I look forward to talking with you next time. Thanks. Bye. Thank you so very much for listening in. If you have learned something new today or have been blessed by this show in any way, please share it with a friend. And don't forget to head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. And feel free to take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram, and I will tag you back. Thank you and be well.